In just 20 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you guys the basics that you need to know behind Python dictionaries. In this video, we'll be covering multiple topics such as different ways that you can create a dictionary, for loops, adding and deleting items and values, as well as multiple methods that are commonly used with Python dictionaries. And all that I recommend that you need coming into this video is an understanding of how a for loop works, as well as knowing what a list is. That being said, I'm going to be coding everything in Google Colab, but feel free to use whatever code editor you are most comfortable with. Let's start coding. All right, so I have a Google Colab notebook. Let me build out just the very basics of a framework of a dictionary, and that way we can explain. So first thing you should know, that values in a dictionary are linked. So what does that mean? Well, essentially how a dictionary is built out in Python is we have our key right over here, and then we have a specific value that's inputted. Now, here's the deal. And these two values are going to always be linked within a dictionary. You can have multiple elements over here, which that's going to be called items. And you can have multiple items in here, but these values, this key and value relationship, these will be linked. So like you can see key value over here, but if we make another one over here, right, and say this is key 2 and value 2, these two are now linked. The relationship between these, right, they're both in this dictionary, but key goes with value, key 2 goes with value 2. Now, there is one other distinction, right? So we can't have two items that have the same exact key. So we can't have key and key. That will not work, and you can't have that. So that's why you need to have distinct key names for each of your specific values. So let's go through a very basic example. We're going to create a dictionary called coder. So let's build in our coder over here. Now, I'm going to say coder equals, and let's start off with building out our first key. So let's have a name in here. Now, what is my name? Well, it is Ryan. So I'm going to put Ryan in here. Okay. Next, we're going to say age. So age, and I'm going to put in here 26 because I am 26 years old. Okay. And technically I didn't need to put this in a string. I could just put this as an integer like that. Okay. And then let's just put over here languages. Now for the data science side of things, I use two languages at work. So I use SQL and Python. So we'll put those in there. Although I do know other languages just from building out websites. But for this example, and we're going to change this a little bit later on, let's just put over here SQL as well as Python, right? And if you're not too familiar with what this is a list. So what we put inside over here is SQL and Python, and that value, or these values inside this list, are linked to this languages. So I'm just going to run this cell over here. And I just started Google Colab, so this will take a second to run. And then you can see no errors over here. Awesome. So what I want to do first is let's see all of the keys that are in our coder. So the way that you can see your keys is all we have to do is over here and say coder.keys. Okay. We run this and you can see it says name, age, and languages, just like everything we put in. Now, if we want to see specifically what those values are, right? So coder, and we just put values in here. Okay. We run that. And Ryan, 26 in SQL and Python. Awesome. And if you want to see what items are, which is the combination between these keys and values, coder.items. Put that in here and check this out. Name, Ryan, age, 26, languages, SQL, and Python. Awesome. Next, I want to show you guys specifically how we can use for loops with these dictionaries. So I have a full video on for loops. So this is just very basic entry level side of things. But what we're going to do is for data in, and we can say coder.values, right? We can, and make sure you put a colon here at the end. We're going to say print data. Now, this is just going to go through the values. So you'll see Ryan, 26, SQL, and Python, right? And check it out. Same exact thing. Now, if you want to see the keys, right? Same thing. We can just go over here, grab the keys. Okay. And we have both of those. Now, here's a cool thing. If we want to go and do our items, so I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to make one small thing that's a little bit different. So if we want to see items, we can put items in here, but we're going to change this print. So what we can do is put key in here. Then we can specify what type of string that we want to separate the keys and items. So, and also I need to specify key in the value over here, but regardless, let's actually do that first. So I'm going to say key and value encoder.items. So we're going to say we print our key, then over here, put this hyphen, and then we'll also put value here then. So value like this. Check this out. You can see name, Ryan, age 26, languages, but you can change this up, right? So let's say we just put this colon instead. You can see we have colons over here. We can change this up to a star. And I find this pretty cool because now we can have our key and value and we can choose like how we want to change this up. And this allows us to do that with that specific for loop. Okay, so let's keep moving forward. Let's take a look at what happens when we want to grab something that does not exist. So normally, right, we can use, so first I want to show you how we can use get. So we're going to go through get. What we're going to do is coder.get, and we'll just populate a name, right? So this is just going to return Ryan over here, because again, we talked about all these values that are in here, right? We're looking for this name. It's linked over to my name. So that's why we get that specifically. Well, what happens if we want to try to grab something that doesn't exist? Well, let's go over here and do company. Now, I didn't specify what company I work for there, and check this out. Nothing happened. Prints, none, okay? And if we don't use get, right, let's say we grab coder, grab company over here instead, we get an error. Well, there's also one awesome thing about get. We can specify what happens instead of having this show up as none. If I go over here and just copy this, and then what I'm going to say is not found. So put not found over here. Check this out. It says not found now. So that's what .get allows us to do. If it doesn't exist over here, right, we don't have the key in value, it's going to say none. Normally, if you try grabbing something, you're going to get an error. You can specify what it can say instead of none. In this case, not found. I can change this up if I wanted to doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Well, I put a single quote there, but we'll just get rid of that really fast. Right? Change it however you want. But I find that very beneficial. We could just throw that in here. Okay. Let's create a another linked relationship between our key and value. It's another item within our dictionary. So what I'm going to say is create new item. So there's a few different ways that we could do that. Very basic way, what we can do is coder. I'm going to put in company in here now because we just talked about that. Company. Now I'm not going to put my actual company I work for, but I work in fintech. So I'm going to put fintech over here. And now we have fintech that's been added as a company. So if I just go over here, put coder, right? Name Ryan, age 26, languages, and we have company as fintech. Okay, now let's take a look at something that's called an update. So what an update can do is update something within our dictionary. So let's do that. I want to update the languages that I have over here. So let's do that. And let's also update my name. So instead of using my first name, let's also use my last name. So we'll put Nolan in here instead. So what we can do is coder.update. And inside over here, you're going to be putting in another dictionary. So what I'm going to say is name, and this time I'll put Nolan. And then inside over here, I'll say languages. So languages. And then I'll put all the different languages. So we'll put over here SQL, Python, and take me back to middle school. when I learned HTML and CSS. And yes, I still know those. And we'll run that. So now if we put coder in here, check this out. We have languages: SQL, Python, HTML, and CSS. Awesome. I want to show you now delete. So we can delete something from here. And the way we do that, delete. So DEL, and I'll put coder and company. So we just added that. Let's delete it. And if we go back to coder, company is now gone. We're back to the three that we started with: name, age, and languages. Awesome. So kind of similar to delete is something called pop. And there's two variances of pop. So what pop will do is it'll delete one of these items over here, right? Languages and the values associated with it. And then it will create a brand new variable. So let's do our languages. So languages over here equals coder.pop. And inside we'll put in languages. And you'll see that all we get at the very end are these over here in this list, but we'll just throw this over here, languages coder.pop. And now if we just grab our languages, we have SQL, Python, HTML, and CSS. But if we go over here and just grab coder, check this out. Now we're missing our languages. So I just called this new variable languages, but that is now specifically removed. Now, another thing that you could use, and I'm not doing this in this example, but you could use something called pop item. So pop item, and you just put over here pop item, it'll remove the last key value pair. So if I did that right now, it would remove age 26, but we're going to need this a little bit later in the tutorial, just based off the code that I prepped. So make sure we don't run that right now, but I wanted to share that with you guys as an example. Okay, let's keep moving forward. Another thing that's kind of easy to use is the length. So length of the dictionary. And all you have to do is len over here, and then just put in your dictionary name. So coder, this will return 2 because we only have 2 relationships in there, right? Our name and age. Earlier, if I put this in the video, we would have 3 or 4, depending when I specifically used it. Okay, let me show you another way that we can go here and create a dictionary. So we're going to say is another way to create a dictionary. And here's how we could do that. So I'm going to call baseball player over here. So baseball player. And we're going to say equals dict over here. And then we're going to say team equals Yankees. And then name equals Ruth. Not a Yankee fan, but Babe Ruth is one of the greatest baseball players of all time. So now we have a baseball player. I just print that out over here. Team, Yankees, name, and Ruth. Awesome. Okay. Now I've covered this also in my list video, but I want to show you something with the memory in Python, which may confuse people in the beginning. So memory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set bb2 equal to our baseball player. So let's say that. Okay, bb2 equals our baseball player. Now, I'm going to set division. Now, I don't know in the old days if the Yankees were AL East, but I'm just going to call the division over here as East. So let's say we're creating division in bb2. Okay, now if I go over here and output bb2, you can see we have division East. Well, we didn't make any changes to baseball player, did we? Let's print that. Oh, there's East on there too. Well, and I've covered this also in my list video, but essentially we're not making a copy of this, right? bb2 points to baseball player, and any change that we make to either baseball player, it's going to impact bb2. We make changes to bb2, it's going to impact baseball player. So the way we resolve that is .copy. So if I want to go over here and say bb3.cop equals, I almost put bb3 copy, but we'll put baseball player over here, copy. Okay, now we've copied that over here. Let's say bb3, we'll put over here decade. So decade. And then we'll say equals like 1920s. Right. Now, if I go and output BB3, right, we have decade. But if I go over here and print out our baseball player that we copied from, we don't have that decade. So make sure you use copy if you want to make another copy and actually edit that. Pretty important to know. Okay, now I'm going to show you something called clear. So I could have used this a little bit earlier, but now that we have BB3 over here, I don't need this. So watch what happens when we do clear. So clear. And now if we just print out our BB3 down below, you can see it is an empty dictionary. We still have a dictionary present, right? BB3 is still technically a dictionary, but there are 0 values inside of it. All right. So now what I want to do too, I'll show you something called a set default. So set default. Okay. So this was similar to what I used above with get. So you can see how like when I use get and there was nothing there, where is this at? I put not found. Well, you can say a default value as well. So what I can do over here is let's go to grab our baseball player. So I'm going to say baseball player. I'm going to set default. So set default. And inside over here, I'm going to say our baseball player sport is going to be baseball. Right? So baseball like that. Okay. So now if I go to baseball player, right? And I grab our sports, you can see now I have baseball in there. Okay. And one last thing that I probably should have put a little bit above over here when we were creating this baseball player, but essentially what we can do is create another dictionary from keys. So I'm just going to say create dictionary from keys. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say teams equals, and I'm going to put in here Dodgers, Giants, and Rockies. And then I'm going to put wins equal 0. Okay. And what we're going to do is say West equals dict from keys and put teams and wins in here. And lastly, we want to see what this looks like for our West. You can see we created Dodgers 0, Giants 0, Rockies 0. Again, very similar to what I did over here when I created this baseball player with teams, Yankees names, kind of just a different way to format that. We have essentially a list out above over here. We set a default over here with 0 wins, and we created that brand new dictionary. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you learned something new, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm uploading multiple videos every single week. So if you want to progress your coding skills, this is the place to do that. Now, if you want to watch even more Python videos, I have a playlist linked down below and other videos right over here.